Hello, my name is Hollis Birch, and today I'm going to be discussing Module 2, which goes over communication and perception. I'm going to be focusing on the self-discrepancy theory, which is a theory that states people have certain beliefs and expectations for their actual potential selves that don't always match up with what they really experience. So I'm going to be applying this theory to a time in my life where my actual self didn't match up with what I thought others thought I should be, which can be a little tricky. But now that you know a little bit more about my theory, I am going to move on to breaking this theory down so y'all can really understand it. So to fully understand the self-discrepancy theory, you need to understand that there are three selves. So the first one being your actual self, which are attributes about you that you and those around you would say you possess. So they believe that you possess these things. So, for example, myself and those around me would say that I have a very bubbly personality. And so that's just an example about my actual self. And then there's your ideal self, which are attributes that you and those around you would like you to possess. So my ideal self would go on runs 5 times a week. That's an attribute about my ideal self. And then lastly, there's your ought self, which are attributes that you and those around you think you should possess. So, for example, an attribute that I think I should possess, I think I should be more ladylike. And so that's an example of my ought self. So these different selves can sometimes conflict with each other in various combinations, whether it be with your actual self versus your ideal self, or your ought self versus your actual self. Whatever it may be, there are times where we think we're not living up to our expectations about ourselves. And I'm sure everyone can think back to a time where they felt the need to change themselves to fit in. I know I can relate. When I was in middle school, I hung out with a group of girls who all dressed the same. They all wore Hollister, Abercrombie, Gilly Hicks, whatever it may be. And then there was me on the other side that wore whatever hand-me-downs I could find, whatever Old Navy t-shirt I reached for first in my closet. And although I liked hanging out with these girls, I felt like my actual self wasn't matching up with the rest of these girls. And so I felt a lot of pressure to change who I was and change the way I dress so that I can match up with these girls. And so my ought self felt pressure to change myself. And I felt like, although I liked hanging out around these girls, I felt a lot of pressure to change the way I dressed. And this made me feel angry and frustrated and nervous that if I didn't change my appearance, that they wouldn't want to hang out with me anymore. My ought self was building this just scenario in my head that if I didn't look the same as them, that they wouldn't want to hang out with me. And so that's a time where my actual self, someone that I believe that I am, didn't match up with my ought self, something that someone says I should possess. So, yeah. I hope that made sense and was clear, but in conclusion, these selves can be applied in a combination of different ways and can sometimes leave you wanting to improve, or can maybe leave you frustrated and confused like middle school me. But I hope you have a better understanding of what the self-discrepancy theory is, and thank you for listening.